Jungkook needed quite some minutes to process the information, a few more to control his anger. He didn't know why he was angry, but this situation was never supposed to happen. His whine was never supposed to be heard. He walked over to the doors of the room where she was in. The glass in between the door allowed him to see through it, and he found Wine laying there, a lot of tubes attached to her body. He could go inside, but he didn't think he had it inside of him to do that yet. He thanked her friends and requested them to go back, as he was there to take care of her now. Once he entered the room and took a seat beside her, his heart broke into a million pieces seeing her condition. She was the one he never allowed a scratch on. Jungkook, it's okay. I'll fix you. I know you need time to heal, but you need to wake up. I am too selfish to let you sleep any further. He kissed her hand, holding it tightly against his big one, and stayed beside her. 24 hours passed by and she didn't wake up. As much as it was painful to him, it didn't break his courage. He never gave up. He stayed beside her almost all the time. He couldn't get over the fact if he listened to her, didn't go to the trip, and stayed behind, this wouldn't have happened. She wouldn't lose these precious months of her life. Most of the nights, he talked to her about their precious moments or his childhood stories. The other times, he would lay beside her and watch her favorite K dramas with one earpod in her ear. The other nights, he would sing her melodies with his heavenly vocals. Something about it made him curse at himself. She would want to sleep more, making him wonder if he shall blast the hospital with guitar and bass. That must wake her up. He was a man with strong determination and courage, a person who was raised to be cold and prone to any feeling until wine came in his life and softened him up a bit, only towards him. Even the greatest of him broke down sometimes, falling on his knees and crying out in agony. Talking to her for months to get nothing in reply really broke his already broken form into furthermore pieces. Now he was sitting on the sofa chair beside her bed, his feet crossed over the bed, and he placed the laptop away on the table as he just got done with his work. He couldn't neglect it for too long either. Jungkook, if you don't wake up already, I'm going to another business trip. Dad asked me to handle the matters in Chicago. Jungkook, he wants me to get out of this hospital. Well, I told him you'll wake up this week. Now you have to. Come on, your husband gave his words. He sighed, receiving no answer, and threw his head back, his eyes shifting towards the ceiling. It had been 8 months. 8 months of watching his wife laying there, half dead. He leaned forward, holding her hand. Jungkook, let's go to Chicago together. Not for business, just you and me. Don't you love big buildings and city lights? You'll love it there. I'll take you to a lot of places and we will make a lot of babies. He rested his head on her chest, and his eyes were stuck on her face, his hand holding hers. He would always wait for her, but he didn't want to spend these years without her. His eyes were closed as he felt the little ruffles in his hair, the calming effect he had every time he was around her, except this time it was too real to be ignored. When he looked up at the view, it was too breathtaking to move his eyes away. Those hazel brown eyes, which brought sunshine to his dull life, a rainbow to his blood red world. As they fluttered open and close, the soft hover of the long lashes provided such serenity to his calm heart, a medicine to the 8 months of agony. While his first instinct was pressing the button beside the bed several times, he didn't move his eyes off her and instantly started to call her, afraid to lose her again. Jungkook, Ryan, are you awake? Can you hear me? Look at me, baby, please. For the first time, he didn't hate the crystal dews gathering up in his eyes. It was the happiness, which he was failing to contain within him. While the doctor rushed in, checking up on her, all he could pray was for her to not leave him again. The doctor asked her a few questions, and she nodded or shook her head to its response. Her hand automatically found his, and he grasped it in his tightly. She looked a little scared and hesitant. When the doctor left, Jungkook was all she could see. Jungkook, she called. He might be a little overdramatic, but her voice was all he needed to live. Jungkook, I'm here, Ryan. I got you. Ryan, for how long I've been here, I feel like I heard you talking. Jungkook, I've been here with you, talking to you, waiting for you. Tell me, how are you feeling now? Ryan, I'm okay. I don't feel any pain. I just feel like I missed something so precious. He shook his head and brushed fingers through her hair, comfortingly. Jungkook, you didn't. Nothing is missing. Everything is where it was before. Ryan, and I missed you a lot. When did you come back? She placed her hand on his cheek, which Jungkook held against his. Jungkook, as soon as I heard about your accident, did you really have to keep your words of calling me back mid trip? And like this? She chuckled a little and mumbled a sorry. Jungkook was planning to not tell her anything, maybe for a day or two at least. He didn't want her to take any stress over the lost time of her life. He wanted her to know. He wanted to show her that she missed nothing. He was there. She was there. It was all that mattered. Jungkook, hungry? She nodded and called home to his personal chef to bring some homemade food. Wine. When are we going home? Jungkook. I'll talk to doctor and see about it. It still seemed so surreal how she was awoke and he was talking to her so normally, as if nothing happened. Jungkook fed her with her favorite homemade food once it arrived. She was kept under supervision for the next 24 hours. When doctor was assured that everything was fine with her, they let her go home. The next 3 days, they stayed at home. Jungkook told her after 3 days about the number of days she spent in a coma, 8 months to be specific. It was a shock to her, but he was there to provide relief to her. He had a huge and beautiful date planned right after he revealed the bitter truth to her. As much as it made her upset, the date was everything she needed: the candlelight dinner on a cruise at night and the fireworks show. The fireworks show was too huge, she believed the whole city could watch it through their windows. The next was outdoor K drama cuddles. While it played on the huge projector, as they enjoyed it while laying on the couches under the millions of stars. It was hard for her for the next few days. Sometimes the thought of missing out 8 months of her life, but she was too glad to wake up again, to be by his side again, to be able to feel his love again. Now they were in Chicago. Vine was sitting in front of the glass wall of her room. The lights were off, and all she could see was the beautiful river, the bridge on top of it, and the buildings illuminated by the city lights. Everything she loved about life. Jungkook handed her a cup of coffee as he took a seat beside her. He was shirtless, and she only had a silk robe covering her. Vine, how amazing it would be to jump from here. Jungkook, it would, but too bad. Even with protection, I'm not allowing that. Vine, I know my ways to convince my husband. Jungkook, husband has decided to turn stone cold. Vine, husband is wrapped around my finger. Jungkook fake coughed, fake groaned, and fake rolled his eyes. But what genuine here was, he proudly accepted the truth. She laughed and turned to him excitedly, remembering something. Vine, once in a family gathering, I heard some aunt saying she did some witch magic on her husband. Jungkook, now that I think about it, did you really do that? Vine, I won't tell you. She laughed evilly. Jungkook, come on, tell me, you did, huh? He grabbed the coffee mug from her hand, placing it aside and tickled her. She laughed, pushing his hand off. Jungkook, tell me. He tickled her again, and when she tried to run away, he wrapped his arms around her and started tickling her more. The room got filled up with their laughter and happiness as the two spent and enjoyed the rest of their vacation away from all the worries of the world.